Alves. Welcome to our Sundays live. I'm a volunteer in the Spirit Centre of Ireland. I'm Brazilian, but I'm currently living here in Dublin, Ireland. And before we start, as always, I just want to make sure everything is okay and you guys are hearing me well. So if you could just give me a thumbs up and let me know if everything is working fine, that would be great. So I will just wait for a sign here that everything is okay. Cool. So now that you guys are hearing me well, let's start our talk. Today we are going to talk about suicide prevention. And the reason why we are talking about it today is because this month is what we call Yellow September. So more precisely, the World Suicide Prevention Day is observed on the 10th of September. So that is the reason why we took the opportunity to talk about this topic, which is a very important topic for us as spiritists as well. But first things first, let's do our initial prayer. So if you can, or if you want to close your eyes and take a deep breath. Dear Jesus, dear God, dear spiritual friends, be with us in this morning. Help us reach as many people as we can with this message, which is a very important message. A message of hope, a message of love, a message of humanity as well. Help us understand this, which is a difficult subject, and help everyone that has this type of thoughts or that are facing difficult times. Help us all help each other and be with each other when we need help. So be it. So, as I mentioned, the World Suicide Prevention Day is approaching, and this month is entirely dedicated to this theme worldwide. So we can reflect on it and the consequences it brings to our lives, whether we are experiencing suicidal thoughts or a loved one is, or even if we lose someone to this tragical choice. When it comes to spiritism, as I said, this is a very important topic because even though we are eternal beings, as we spiritists believe, that is, we will live on even after we die, we have a duty to preserve and respect life, as it is a means for development and spiritual progress. So it's very important. But before we start to dive in what Spiritism says about suicide, let's contextualize ourselves in terms of what is the reality around it. This topic used to be a taboo. However, this concept has been changing recently. We experience that talking about it is necessary as the number of people committing suicide keeps rising. Also, mental health specialists defend that talking about it is crucial as it can actually prevent suicide from happening. Looking at the World Health Organization website and some others, we find that close to 800,000 people die by suicide every year. It's one person in every 40 seconds. Among population of 15 to 19 years of age, suicide is the third leading cause of death. And 79% of global suicides occur in low and middle income countries. Also, alcohol and other substance use disorders are found in 25 to 50 of all suicides. So alcohol is a big factor to consider as well. However, 93% of suicides can be prevented if the signals are identified. Behind these statistics are individual stories of those who have, for many different reasons, questioned the value of their own lives. Each one of these individuals is part of a community. Some may be well linked into their community and have a network of family, friends, and work colleagues or schoolmates. Others may be less well connected, and some may be quite isolated. The stigma, particularly surrounding mental disorders and suicide, means that many people thinking of taking their own life or have had attempted suicide are not seeking help and therefore not getting the help they need. The prevention of suicide has not been adequately addressed due to the lack of awareness of suicide as a major public health problem and the taboo in many societies to openly discuss it. So to date, only a few countries have included suicide prevention among their health priorities, and only around 28 countries report having a national suicide prevention strategy. Raising community awareness and breaking down the taboo is important for countries to make progress in preventing suicide. Globally, the availability and quality of data in suicide and suicide attempts is poor. Only 60 member states have good quality VITA registration that can be used directly to estimate suicide rates. This problem of poor quality mortality data is not unique to suicide, but given the sensitivity of suicide and the illegality of suicidal behavior in some countries, it is likely that underreporting and misclassification are greater problems for suicide than the most other causes of death. So what are the main causes of suicide? Well, there are several, and generally it's a complex combination of various factors, but the most common are associated with lack of hope and isolation. It is important to understand that the person attempting suicide is not trying to end their life, but trying to end the pain and reach out for help. Now, what is the Spiritism view about suicide? In the Gospel according to Spiritism, chapter 5, item 15, there's a passage that explains us very well. So I'm going to very quickly read this passage. It is certain that whatever may be the particular motive, it always has discontent as the cause. Hence, those who are sure that they will be unfortunate only for a day and that better days will follow, easily have patience. They only become desperate if they can see no end to their suffering. What is a human lifetime compared to eternity, if not less than one day? For those who do not believe in eternity, however, for those who believe that all is over when life ends, if they are oppressed by trouble and misfortune, they see no end to them except in death. Expecting nothing, they find it very natural and even logical to shorten their miseries by suicide. So basically, what this passage is telling us is that if you're a very materialistic person, and if you're very materialistic driven in your approach to life, it makes sense for you if you're suffering to end your life, because then you think that the suffering will end with it. But this passage shows us that that is not the case. In fact, we are only just causing more trouble if we do that. And also, if you go to the Spiritist book, part 4, chapter 1, Dissatisfaction with Life, Suicide, question 943, we have, where did this dissatisfaction with life come from, which takes hold of some individuals without any plausible reason? It is the effect of idleness, lack of faith, and usually satiety. For those who employ their faculties with a useful purpose and according to their natural aptitudes, labor has nothing barren about it, and life flows by more quickly. They bear life's tribulations with patience and resignation because they look forward to the more solid and lasting happiness awaiting them. Do people have the right to take their own life? No, only God has that right. Those who intentionally commit suicide commit a transgression against this law. So the Spirit's book is also very clear in terms of um, the Spiritism approach to it, and also the how the law of Spiritism, the law of God, and the law of love kind of define the act. And also in that last question that I read, it says that only God has the right to take our lives. Now, we Spiritists believe that Spirit's teachings enables us to regard the things of this world, and we accept with indifference and even joy the reversals and disappointments that would render us desperate in other circumstances. It is obvious that this strength, which puts us above such events, protects our minds from distress that would otherwise jolt us. The tribulations of life are meant as trials or expiations, so we need to do our best to bear them. Now, going deeper in terms of what what Spiritism tells us about suicide, we can see in the book from André Trigueiro. André Trigueiro is a Spiritist Brazilian journalist, and he wrote a book about living is the best option and the prevention of suicide in Brazil and in the world. And he was impressed by the discovery that of all the great religions of spiritual traditions of the Western and the Eastern world, the absolute majority of these religions and traditions, although they diverge in relation to several theological aspects, for example, my God is this, my God is that, there is reincarnation, there isn't reincarnation, there is heaven and hell, there isn't heaven and hell, they converge widely when they affirm that suicide is never a relief or a solution to problems. It is interesting for anyone who does not believe in these things to access this information, because it's very curious that all these traditions or religions, they harmonize and they converge when they affirm that there is no death. And when death of the physical body comes upon us, just like a caterpillar that breaks free from the cocoon, another resolution of life starts. This information is important to have. It is something that you can take into account at a difficult time. And from the point of view of Spiritism, which has a very interesting detailed form to explain the reality of the suicidal in the spiritual world, we could briefly say that the first impression felt by someone in this condition is of regret. Spiritists have several reasons to counterbalance the idea of suicide. The certainty that if we shorten our life, we will in fact attain a result that is exactly opposite to what we were hoping for. That if we free ourselves from our one evil, we are actually incurring one that is worse, longer and even more dreadful. Longer and even more dreadful, that they are fooling, or that we are fooling ourselves. If we believe that by killing ourselves, we will go to heaven more quickly. That suicide is an obstacle to being reunited to or in the other world with the objects of our affections, or I don't know, maybe our parents or relatives or people that we loved and that were gone. and we were hoping to meet them again. From hence follows the conclusion that suicide, bringing nothing but disappointment, is against our best interests. There is also something that is very painful, that is the magnetic perception by radiation of a decomposing body. Because for us spiritists, there is a certain time of life on earth. Change does not exist. What the spiritists love to say is that we are here to live a certain time. And the flow of life is called a vital fluid. And it is what unites the body and the spirit for a certain period. When we precipitate that return to the spiritual homeland at random, we need to bear in mind that only God has the right to take our lives. And those who intentionally commit suicide commit a transgression against this law. Furthermore, free will is sovereign. You are the Lord of your fate. If you so wish, so shall be. Therefore, if you determine the organic collapse, in our belief, there is nothing really like a disappearance, because the spirit resists physical death. This spirit continues to receive by radiation the sensations of the body, since there is still a residual flow, there is still a vital fluid. And what the spirit tells us is that it is not a pleasant sensation. There is on YouTube an interview given by Chico Xavier when he shares his experience, and he says that when one employs a certain method that determines the shutdown of the body, the part of the body that was hit by the aggression that triggered this organic collapse, that part of the body is sealed in its spiritual matrix, that is the perispirit. Therefore, on the perispirit, there is a collapse, an aggression, which is marked. The body decomposes and disappears, becomes something else. But this aggression stays in the matrix of the body, that by law of reincarnation will rehost the spirit in another incarnation. And this cycle stays. So certain causes, for example, of idiocy or madness, are associated with the conclusion of the nerve center of the brain. Certain cases of emphysema associated with the inhalation of gas, or even other substances that cause asphyxia, and so on. So we must be very careful when we analyze these horizons associated with self-extermination, because those who commit suicide remain in the future with the results of their act, and they reincarnate, bringing the consequences in their own body. And what are the consequences of this in the timeline? And the time that goes beyond life in the earth? So no one is born predetermined to kill themselves. There is no genetics of suicide, so to speak. Nobody has a suicide gene. No one is born with a spiritual plan, or as if they had this destiny. In a family that has many suicides, for example, the grandmother, the father, the sister, etc., there's of course an issue there that will require attention and care, because it's not easy to lose people close and dear in those terms. But that does not mean that that does not make them a potential suicide. No one is born to kill themselves. There is what we spiritists says, that is what we spiritists believe. We also don't believe in eternal fines or hell and heaven. Hell is basically just an intimate experience. The final judgment is the court of our own conscience, and we have the chance to redeem ourselves. We are reincarnationists. We will have the opportunity to do it up front and make different decisions in favor of our health and our joy, in favor of our evolutionary journey. And lastly, we need to be careful with the ones next to us. We don't need to be a health professional to care about the pain of someone around us whom we do not know, but if they are suffering, our humanity is in check. We are a great community, and in this human until the only chance that we have to work as a civilization is paying attention to what is our duty to minimize or neutralize pain and suffering of others. We need to do it amidst the prevalent values of consumerism, egoism, or hedonism, individualism, all these isms conspiring in favor of the self-safeguard that we try to create. And unfortunately, what we are seeing is that we are getting so immersed in this island concept. So we need a collective health project, as it is not a matter of only doctors, psychologists, psychiatrists, psychoanalysts, or of all so-called health professionals. They have the technical authority to carry out procedures in the opposite direction of diseases and pathologies, but we all need to commit to the human mandate to care for one another, to pay attention to what happens around us, and to be ready to act whenever possible to stop pain and suffering. This is the best prescription for integral health. And speaking of which, as I mentioned at the beginning of the talk, on the 10th of September is the World Suicide Prevention Day. And I would like to briefly talk about how this started and what is the purpose of having a Yellow September. So the World Suicide Prevention Day was started in 2003 by the International Association for Suicide Prevention. And shortly after that was launched, the World Health Organization began to co-sponsor their events. This day was established to bring attention to the issue of suicide and to bring people and organizations together to help solve the problem. And the other things that the World Suicide Prevention Day attempts to achieve includes increasing public awareness of suicide and to decrease the stigmatization surrounding the topic. On this day, events and activities are held on local and global level all over the world to raise awareness that suicide is preventable. Every year, a different theme is established for World Suicide Prevention Day, and this theme helps to highlight an aspect of suicide and how it can be prevented. So, for instance, in 2003, the theme was Suicide Can Be Prevented, if I am not mistaken. And in 2016, the theme was Connect, Communicate, and Care. I also want to take the opportunity to talk about the Say Yes to Life campaign, which I am part of, and that is basically an awareness-raising campaign to prevent suicide. Our objective is to reach as many people as possible with good information on how to prevent suicide in our daily lives and encourage them to take action when risk presents itself. A suicidal person very often experiences huge pain. They may not ask for help, but that doesn't mean that help is not needed. The person wants to end the pain, not their lives. That is why we don't say no to that. We say yes to life. Suicide can be prevented. Usually there are warning signs before someone attempts suicide, and we need to raise our personal awareness in order to understand them. It is estimated that for each person who died of suicide, about 20 others attempted suicide. Friends, family, and communities in general play a key role in suicide prevention. Most people with suicidal behavior are ambivalent about living or dying. So by raising general awareness about the responsibility and possibilities of every single one of us, we can save lives. Our inspiration for our campaign is Mr. C. Chin. I hope I'm saying his name correctly. And he's Chinese, and he dedicated the last 20 years spending his weekends at the Nanjing Bridge in China. And what he does is he looks for potential suicide attempts. Just by reaching out and talking to people, he has saved over 400 lives. Now, our ambassadors of life in different countries share information, host events, and connect to the local organization so people can get more support when needed. We have our material translated into 10 languages and the campaign activated in 6 countries. So if you want to become an ambassador of life, join our Facebook page that has continuous feed on articles, testimonials, videos related to suicide facts, causes, and how to uh, prevent it by caring about those around us. And on the 10th of September, we are going to release a video that is basically just a short message, because we usually do public events. We go to the streets and we talk to people, but we won't be able to do that this time. So we are going to publish this video on the 10th of September. And if you want to share this video with your friends or maybe someone that you think should receive the message, we would really appreciate it. So practically, how can we help? We can help in several ways, and one of them is raising our personal awareness about the topic, understanding it a little bit more, reading about it, and also trying to break the barrier of thinking that we should not talk about it. We actually should talk about it. We should actually talk more about it. So that is one thing, and be prepared to help other people as well if they need. Reaching out to talk to people, as I said, maybe someone is having this thoughts, and just by saying, "Are you okay?" or "How are you?" Simple things that you can do, and by talking to people, they can feel appreciated. They can maybe lose that feeling that they are not valued, that nobody perceives them. So that is also one way, and also offering a word of support and listening in a non-judgmental way. That is very important, because usually we listen to people and we have our own ideas of how things should be for them and what they should be doing or not doing. And we know, we usually know what should be the right situation for that person. And by doing that, we are actually not helping as much as just listening in a very non-judgmental way and being gentle with the words with this person. And also by sharing testimony on those who considered ending their lives but changed their minds and are happy their attempt was not successful, or they actually didn't do it. Also by sharing information on the continuity of life, especially us as spiritists, because we know the importance of it. And concluding, those information actually concludes that suicide does not resolve the problem. So by sharing this is really also helpful, because people can change their minds. Also sharing videos, reports about the turns life can take, showing that there's always hope for things to change. And lastly, sharing videos and reports about the consequences that suicide has on family, friends, the community, everyone that stays or left behind, if we can say like that. Also, other ways to help is encouraging people to find support. There are organizations that can help. Every Sunday we talk about them here. So one of them is the yourmentalhealth.ie website. Is an Ireland website or an Irish website, but everybody can access the information. There's also the Irish Council for Psychotherapy, and the website is psychotherapycouncil.ie. There's the Samaritans. We can call free to the Samaritans. It's 116123. And also, there are other professional options like general mental health practitioners, as well as hospital emergency services. So, if someone is in a very bad shape, you can take them to the hospital and they will be taken care of there as well. People who have lived through a suicide attempt have much to teach us about how the words and actions of others are important. They often describe realizing that they did not want to die, but instead they wanted someone to intervene and stop them. Many say that they actively sought someone who would sense their despair and ask them whether they were okay. So, as you can see, there are a lot of things that we can do to help. Now, lastly, I want to remind you all of our conference about respecting, preserving, and appreciating life. There will be renowned spiritist speakers bringing us knowledge on the subject of value of life and suicide prevention, among other relevant topics. It will be live streamed on the Facebook page and YouTube pages of the British Union of Spirit Societies, the Spiritist Society of Ireland, and the Kardec Radio. So there are multiple platforms for you to get the information. There's no registration or anything like that. It's just a live, so you just tune in and participate. Now, I want to end on an uplifting note, and this is one of the posts that we shared on our Say Yes to Life Facebook page that tells a story about listening with compassion and discipline being there. So I'm going to read this story for you guys. The other day I was at the bus stop, and a lady was waiting a few meters away from me. She looked very sad, so I decided to speak to her. I wasn't even acknowledging that she was sad. I just asked her how long she's waiting for the bus. She said it was a while now, and then we just chatted for about everyday things. And she seemed all right. When the bus arrived, I sat down and she sat behind me. About 5 minutes later, she asked if she can sit next to me. And from then on, she cried all the way to Dublin. She was very upset about her daughter, who she said had gotten involved with the wrong crowd and was out for nights without saying where she went. She was so worried and just didn't really know what to do. I think she just needed someone to talk to. I read a book once that said a stranger is just a friend waiting to be discovered. I may never see her again, but I know in that moment I was her best friend all the way to Dublin. So, just I get very emotional when I read this message. It's a very nice one. Just wanted to end the talk with this message. Now, I just want to know if you guys have any questions or I don't know, maybe any comments or anything that you'd like to share. And while you guys type your questions, if you have any, I am going to talk about our activities. So for now, we are doing our public meetings in the form of lives, and it's every Sunday at 11:15 a.m. as you guys know because you're here. And also we have every Tuesday and Thursdays we have our talk show in the form of lives as well. For now, it's at 7:15 p.m. And we have also study groups every Wednesday from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. The study groups is done by Zoom. So if you want to participate, you can just send us a message, and we'll add you to the group and send you the link and everything that you need to participate. So you can also find us on Facebook. This is our page, Spiritist Society of Ireland. There's also the Irish Federation association. And also, if you want to send us an email with a message or a question or anything like that, it's a spiritist. Oh, sorry, a spiritismisland@gmail.com. And also, I just wanted to say to you guys that unfortunately, we are not able yet to be back to the physically, I mean, to the Spiritist Center. So we're not having anything or any form of meeting or study groups or anything physically or presentially. I don't know if there is this word, but we are not back to the Spiritist Center yet, to the building yet. And there are many reasons why we are not there yet. One of them is because social distance is very difficult. We have a very small room. Also, the people that work in the building, they are at high risk because a lot of them are elderly people. So we need to act very responsibly and not bring any risk to them as well. So those are the main, let's say, reasons for that. But if you're wondering, just send us a message and we can reply to you, or if you have any questions or anything like that, just let us know and we can clarify those things to you. But big takeaway here is don't go to the center. I know that a lot of other places are open and running, but we are not yet. We are going to come back when it's safe to do so for everybody. Okay, so you are also seeing the Fraternal Gathering Dublin at gmail.com email there. So if you need any help or if you want to talk to us, just send us an email as well. And I think that is it. I have not received any questions as of now. I'm checking everything here and I see a lot of nice comments. Thank you so much, guys. A very good morning to everyone. And thank you to be here. I hope this topic, I know it's a very hard topic. It's hard to talk about it. It is hard to have the right tone to talk about it because it's a very important topic for us as spiritists as well. And we need to be careful because sometimes we just take it for granted. And I don't know, it's hard to know when someone is needing help. So the best thing to do is to be as kind as you can with people around you, and also be conscious that every person is a different world. Well, they have their own thoughts, they have their own feelings, they have their own troubles, and just seeing the situation from our perspective sometimes doesn't really help. And approaching to people and talking to them and trying to raise a hand to them can make a huge difference. So that is my main message for today. So if you guys don't have any more questions, I just want to share here my bibliography. So as always, my main resources are the Gospel According to Spiritism and the Spirit's Book, but there's also Heaven and Hell. I took a lot of information from web pages, especially when it comes to numbers and, stuff like that. And also some YouTube videos of spiritists talking about it, Chico Xavier and the Trigueiro, as I said, and Sergio Lopez. So those are the main books and things that I researched to talk to you guys about it. So that is it from me. Thank you very much for all the messages here. Thank you for being here again. And I hope to see you guys again soon. Have a wonderful Sunday. Goodbye.